Hi, and welcome to Read Out Loud on KidLit TV. I'm Amelie Anastasia, and today I'm going to read Wolf Tales. This book is dedicated to all of the people who give their time, effort, and resources to keep national and state parks open and thriving as a safe place for animals and those who love them. Chapter 1. The Heart of the Wolf. Lavender, a 5-month-old wolf pup, woke up from a sound sleep to a big kabang! She crept out of her den into the afternoon sunlight and was greeted by a hip hip hooray! Since when do you start yelling wildly without me? Lavender asked Leaf, a pup from another litter in her pack. Sorry, Lavender, the young pup replied, but I'm really excited. Because the bird up there, he pointed with his snout, that bird just laid eggs, and usually I stare and stare at them until they hatch, until my mouth waters, and then I go catch groundhogs and eat them. Lavender raised an eyebrow at Leaf, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. What are you doing up so early anyway? I already told you why I'm up so early, Leaf replied hastily. I'm excited! And he stared back up at the tree, drooling. I'm not sure how long you've gone without eating at least a worm. I think the longest you've gone without eating is 5 minutes, scoffed Lavender. Maybe less than that, Leaf admitted. Why are you pups up so early? Lavender's mother asked the pups as she slinked towards the entrance of the wolf den. And Leaf, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be with your mom? I would welcome you inside, but do you know groundhogs? Leaf nodded. Well, the elder wolf growled, they've found their way into our den, and it's a mess. It was true. Lavender had woken up several times in the night as rocks and dirt fell from the soil ceiling above her. Groundhogs were digging tunnels in the soft dirt above, wreaking havoc on the fox den below. A large rock had fallen on Lavender's tail. Lavender realized her tail was still tender as she wagged her tail in agreement with her mother, wincing in pain. She wouldn't admit it to Leaf, however. She was supposed to be the strong one of the group of pups, and he was supposed to be the wild card. I'm not surprised, Leaf said. Some chipmunk got into our den and made a mess a week ago. Prey, better as food, Lavender grumbled. I know, right? Leaf agreed, licking his lips. If I had a chance, I would tell those groundhogs, hey, you taste a lot better than you smell. Lavender yipped, hopping on her hind legs in excitement. I said that to a jackrabbit once. I was just trying to be funny, but she didn't see it that way. She kicked me right in the muzzle and ran away, said Leaf. Turns out she was serious. So, whose den should we go to? Well, if we stay at my den, my mom will get mad, Lavender said. And if we go to my den, my mom will get mad, replied Leaf. Let's just go for a walk in the woods. We always find the tastiest bugs there, Lavender suggested, leading the way along the mossy ground. Is it weird that we like bugs? No one else likes them in our wolf lessons with the pack, Leaf worried out loud. He didn't want to be seen as the weak pup in the pack. Okay, here's the... Oh, hey, sorry to bump into you. Whoa, Lavender exclaimed as the two wolf pups were suddenly faced with two orange fox kits, teeth bared, tails twitching, and yellow eyes staring directly at the wolves. One of the growling foxes approached, with the other following its tail. Stay away from us, the fox snapped. We don't mean any harm. We're just passing through, Leaf assured the two nervous foxes. Well, you better not pass that tree, the young fox kit nodded at a small but strong-looking oak tree, because that's our territory. Don't worry, Lavender said, we won't. What are your names? Looking at the gray and white, blue-eyed wolves, the female fox hesitated, then responded. Fine, I'm Nya, and this is Hazel. We're the strongest foxes in the forest, she added, puffing up her fur as she spoke. And who are you? I'm Lavender, and this... Hey, you don't need to talk for me. I can talk for myself, Leaf objected. He was slightly younger than Lavender, and felt she always tried to protect him, when he wanted to be the protector. Wait a minute, I know you, Leaf said, squinting at the male fox kit. You're that fox I saw in my first hunt. I remember you. You were chasing a squirrel, and you tripped on your own paws and face planted. We're going this way, Hazel said to Nya, embarrassed in front of the bigger wolves. Actually, Hazel, I think this could be fun. Do you guys want to tag along? Nya asked the wolves, her yellow eyes glinting mischievously in the sun. Sure, Lavender decided for the pair. If I go back to my den, my mom will make me tidy, and I'm in no mood for that. Me neither, agreed Leaf. Be careful. The young kit flashed her eyes and her white smile at the pair of young wolves. When you go on adventures with foxes, you might lose a whisker, or two. Chapter 2, Forest Humor. So where should we go? Leaf curiously asked. How about we introduce you to our friend Stinky Paws? Nya said foxily, casting a sideways glance at her companion. Oh yeah, Hazel grinned. How long does it take to get to his burrow? Only a couple of minutes, Nya smirked. By the way, what do your parents look like? Hazel asked the young wolves. Gray, I guess? Leaf replied. Why? 'Cause they tried to eat my brother and sister? Hazel said, his eyes narrowing, his red and white tail twitching. Oh, Lavender replied. Please don't hurt us. We weren't there. We were tiny pups sleeping then. Okay, we forgive you, Hazel said, but I'm keeping my eye on you. Nya squinted at the wolves. The pups were a bit nervous with the untrusting foxes, but curious as well. So they followed them along the soft path deeper into the forest. The forest was full of flowers of late spring, and the buzzing insects that seemed to dance above the young canines' heads as they sped from flower to flower. Youch! Hazel said. He bit me! The wolf bit me! Nya rolled her eyes, looking over her shoulder at Hazel, who was lopping about, reaching back to examine his aching hind leg. It was a bee, Hazel. Stay away from the flowers. Oh, Hazel said sheepishly, looking back at Leaf. Sorry. You should be, Leaf said. I wouldn't bite your butt if you begged me. Hazel shook his fur haughtily and ran ahead to rejoin Nya. Can you at least get the stinger out? Hazel asked Nya impatiently. Okay, but it won't be pretty, Nya replied, anxious not to be kicked in the muzzle. Nya quickly pulled out the stinger from Hazel's leg, but Hazel still let a whimper and kicked, and the two foxes danced, batting at each other playfully, before landing in a pile of orange fur. How are we still not good at our landings? Nya laughed. The wolves looked on quizzically. The fox pair stood and shook their fur, stretching their legs and rejoined the wolf pups. The unusual pack then headed deeper into the forest. In a few minutes, the canines had arrived at the burrow. I've never seen stuff like this. Why are those plants dead? Lavender asked the foxes. I don't know, Nya replied. There seemed to be a circle of dead ferns, grass, and trees around the den. The two wolves became nervous, but Lavender, who saw herself as a future pack leader, wanted to appear confident. Let's go, Lavender said with a shake of her head, and padded towards the entrance of the burrow, sticking her muzzle in and sniffing. Leaf, did you forget to clean yourself today? Lavender asked, sniffing. No, huffed Leaf. Then what stinks? Lavender asked, when suddenly a spray came from the burrow, along with a chirruping sound. Screamed Lavender, who had been hit right in the mouth. I can taste it! What is it? It's awful! At first, the foxes were barking with laughter, but their laughter quickly turned to yelps. Ew, it's got us too! Hazel cried, coughing. Serves you well, Leaf barked. Now we know why the trees are dead, Nya said, regretting her nasty prank. Sneezing and coughing, the four canines were desperate for relief. I know a pond nearby, Nya said. We need to get there before the smell kills us like those trees. The pack set off for the pond, rubbing their bodies on the ground desperately to try to rub off the horrible stench. What was that anyways? Leaf asked. It was a skunk, Hazel replied. Was that supposed to happen? Lavender asked. Yup, Hazel replied, and you fell for it. Maybe so, but we aren't the only ones who stink, Lavender scoffed. Better think harder about the consequences of your fox pranks next time. Now where's that pond? The spring rains had driven mud and sticks into the pond, making it filthy and sticky. The wolves looked with disdain at the dirty water, but the foxes, knowing how the oil from the skunk spray would stick with them for weeks without the help of the pond, dove in muzzle first and rolled around in the mud. You foxes are disgusting, Lavender said. I think pigs bathe more than you two. I washed this morning, Hazel cried. Me too, Nya replied haughtily. Your turn, she said. looking at Lavender. "Give us a second," Lavender said, noticing that there were deep parts in the pond. She stepped in carefully, then rolled around as well. After a couple of minutes, she became more comfortable. Suddenly, Lavender felt herself being sucked down into the mud, and she realized quickly that she was unable to paw her way out. The more she struggled to get out, the more stuck in the mud she became. "Help!" Lavender cried, realizing she was sinking into a bog. "Hazel, get that stick, quickly!" Nya ordered. Hazel ran for a large stick, but it was very heavy. "I'll help you," Leaf said. The two males held either side of the large stick, bringing it over to the edge of the bog. "Grab on!" Hazel cried, pushing the stick toward Lavender. Lavender grabbed onto the end of the stick, and Hazel and Leaf pulled on the opposite end of the stick for what felt like hours, until the exhausted wolf pup was able to pull herself out of the muddy bog. Lavender looked at Hazel with gratitude and said, "Thank you, Hazel." She couldn't believe she had just been saved by a fox kit. "Ah, no problem," said Hazel. "I'm good at getting those that are stuck unstuck," he replied, casting a glance at Nya, who rolled her eyes, remembering her encounter with a log where she first met Hazel. "Let's show them our favorite activity," Nya told Hazel. "You mean your favorite activity?" Hazel responded. "We're sorry about tricking you," Nya apologized to the wolf pup, "but we would like to make it up to you with a game of frog catch." "I have a feeling we're not going to like this," Lavender said, shaking off the wet muck from her fur, spraying Leaf with flying bits of mud, leaves, and sticks. Leaf sniffed and turned his tail to Lavender, letting out a playful howl. "Well, now I need to clean off my muzzle, so let's go. But no more bogs, please." "Oh, no more bogs, you say? If you don't want bogs, you don't want to play," Hazel said. "Are you kidding me? Lavender almost became bog food," Leaf said. "Okay, let's go to a creek. It's pretty shallow, I think. The frogs there are fast, and that's why we like to chase them." "Aren't those the slimiest snacks ever?" Leaf asked, tongue out. But he couldn't deny that he was getting hungry. "All right, we'll try it," said Lavender. She had a hard time trusting the cunning foxes, but Hazel had just rescued her, and she herself was getting quite hungry. "We should probably take a shortcut through mud rock, because the long way isn't just dangerous or mucky. There's also a bear cave there. The bears are waking up from spring, and they're hungry," Nya explained. "Any chance they only eat jackrabbits?" Leaf asked. He'd never met a bear before. "What do you think, Hazel?" "Hazel?" Nya asked. The young kit had learned to fall asleep during arguments, thanks to his siblings. While Nya and the wolf pups debated, Hazel had fallen asleep on a patch of soft spring grass in the sunshine. "Ugh, he did it again." "Hazel," Nya said, jumping on Hazel's stomach. "Youch! You're beginning to act like my little brothers and sisters," Sleepy Hazel replied, as he stood on his 4 white paws and stretched lazily. The foursome began to walk toward Mud Rock, with Nya keeping one eye on Hazel and the other eye on the wolf pups. Chapter 3, A Sticky Situation. Following the usual trail, Nya led them to Mud Rock. Mud Rock was a muddy creek bed. There was a large rock in the middle of the creek, which was covered with green moss. They passed Mud Rock without a single problem. The 4 canines were starting to relax, nipping at one another playfully and enjoying the journey. When they reached the creek, Hazel spotted what he thought was a frog. Hazel crawled, belly dragging on the muddy creek bed, and quickly grabbed the slimy creature with his mouth. He tried to swallow it whole, but before it could go down his throat, he felt a strange sensation in his throat, like he could not breathe well. Hazel started gagging. He looked at Nya with wide eyes. "Oh, brother," Lavender sighed, while Leaf covered his eyes with his paw. "That's a cane toad," Lavender stated. "It's toxic." Leaf smacked Hazel on the back, and Hazel coughed up the oozing toad onto the ground. "Serves you right for trying to eat me," the toad croaked. The wolves and foxes looked at one another, as all they heard was a low croak. "Does anyone speak toad, or frog, perhaps?" asked Nya. "No, but maybe we can do paw motions," Hazel suggested. "I don't think it would be easy to balance on 2 paws, Hazel," Nya sighed. "Anyway, let's not waste time talking to a toad." The toad slowly lumbered away, squinting back over his round shoulder angrily at the canines. The pups and kits looked at the creek and noticed that all the frogs were really toads. Their hope for a quick and easy lunch was fading. Suddenly, Nya felt something on her paw. "What was that?" Nya gasped as she looked down. Many small fish were swimming around her toes. The fish would dart at her paws, quickly nibbling on them, then swim away in a flash. Nya stayed still, watching them. She then quickly stuck her muzzle in the water and back out again, with a mouthful of tiny wriggling fish. All of the pups knew what this meant. They quickly followed Nya to the riverbank, stepping into the cool water, and waited. Soon, they all had enjoyed at least 5 mouthfuls of small fish, now swimming inside their satisfied stomachs. "Well, it's been nice meeting you," Nya said to the wolf pups, rinsing her muzzle off in the clear water. "Yeah, it really has been," Nya replied. "Hey guys, maybe we should meet again in the forest." "I would like that," Hazel replied, looking at Nya. Nya nodded in agreement. "Let's have a secret howl," Lavender suggested. "That way we know how to find each other." "Ow, ow, 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 ow," Leaf howled. "That's a really long secret howl," Hazel said. Nya bumped Hazel and looked back at the wolves. "Thank you. We will be sure to find you when we hear your call," Nya replied. The 2 pups and kits parted. They were going home with memories, full tummies, and stories to tell their younger brothers and sisters when they arrived home to their dens. And as always, they looked forward to all of the future adventures awaiting them. The end. Thank you for watching Read Out Loud.